Hey there, CGA Math students. So today we're going to go ahead and work with integer operation rules with rational numbers. Remember that there are different rules for addition and subtraction, as well as multiplying and dividing. There's the same thing as well when we're working with fractions, right? When we are borrowing here to find our answers, and here we're trying to change mixed numbers to improper fractions and looking to cross cancel. Here we need common denominators, here we don't need common denominators. So keep those rules in mind. So number one, 8 times negative 0.25. First of all, is your answer going to be positive or negative? Well, since you only have one negative, your answer is going to be negative. All right, sorry about that. Now there's a couple ways you could go about this. You could just say times 8, which in doing so should give you your answer of 8 times 2 is 16 plus 4 is 20. You have two decimals, 1, 2, should give you your answer of 2. Your answer would be negative 2. Or you could say 8 times, and 0.25 is really 1/4. So 1/4. How do we make 8 a fraction? 8 over 1. When you do that, you look to cross cancel, right? So 8 and 4, what do they have in common? You can divide them both by 4. That becomes a 1. This becomes a 2. Go straight across. And we get 2 times 1 is 2 over 1, which is the same exact thing as negative 2. Right? So you can either multiply decimals if you're comfortable with that, or if you understand how to convert the decimal to a fraction, you can do that as well. And number 2, is my answer going to be positive or negative again? So I have only one negative, so again my answer is going to be negative. So put that negative sign in your answer right away and then forget about it. So we have 1 over 2 times, how do I make this a fraction? Put it over 1, 12 over 1. And then remember, again, cross cancel. Can't do anything with the ones, but I can divide 12 and 2 both by 2. So that'd be 2 divided by 2 is 1, 12 divided by 2 is 6. When I multiply straight across, I get 6, because 1 times 6 is 6, over 1. 6 over 1 is just negative 6. All right, and number 3. The first thing I want to do with negative 6 is say, all right, negative 6 over 1 divided by, and then remember, I want to change this improper fraction, this mixed number into an improper fraction. So 1 times 3 plus 3, so this is 4/3. Notice how my division sign is still there. Now I want to flip it, so keep it negative 6 over 1 times 3 over 4. I found the reciprocal of 4/3, right? So I kept the division sign, I changed my mixed number to an improper fraction, then I flipped it and changed it to multiplication. Now I can cross cancel. I can't cross cancel until I flip everything. So 6 and 4, I can divide them both by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, 4 divided by 2 is 2. I can multiply straight across, I can get 9 over 2. For right now, we could say, hey, that's an improper fraction, let's change it to a mixed number. For today's purposes and time's sake, let's just leave our answer as 9 over 2. Now, that's not my answer, because I should have right off the bat said, hey, I only have one negative, so is my answer going to be positive or negative? My answer is going to be negative, so negative 9 over 2. The next section is kind of interesting. Remember how we broke apart mixed numbers when we were adding subtraction? We can kind of do the same thing, but with the distributive property. The distributive property says you multiply the term on the outside by both things on the inside. So let's go ahead and say negative 6, and then let's break this apart. So times 5 plus 1/3. As I do that, I'm now going to multiply negative 6 times 5 and negative 6 times 1/3. So let's see what that looks like. Negative 6 times 5 is obviously 30. And 6 times 1/3, well, what does that look like? I'll put that off to the side here. 6 really times 1/3. Really put that over 1. So 6 and 3, you can cross cancel. You can divide both by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. 2 times 1 gives you 2 over 1. So really, this negative 6 times 1/3 is plus 2. Right? So what's my answer? It's 30 plus 2, which is 32. And is my answer positive or negative? I keep on forgetting to do this. I should do this right off the bat. Since I only have one negative sign, my answer is negative. Negative 32. I want you to practice the same thing on this one, splitting this guy apart and trying to use the distributive property to find your answer. All right. Number 6, evaluate by looking to cross cancel. First thing you want to do is rewrite this problem with nothing but fractions. So I got 16 times negative 3/8 plus 16 times 1/4. Let's rewrite it so it's 16 over 1 times negative 3/8 plus 16 over 1 times 1/4. Now some of you may be thinking, oh, let's move the 16 over 1s next to each other because they look alike. Well, you can't necessarily do that because we have multiplication and addition here. So this addition, we could flip-flop these whole things together, right? But I couldn't flip-flop just this part and this part, right? That would be changing the entire problem. So let's look to cross cancel. 16 and 8, I can divide them both by 8, so that becomes a 1, this becomes a 2. 16 and a 4, I can divide them both by 4, so that becomes a 1, and this becomes a 4. Let's take this kind of chunk at a time, so let's do this piece first. 2 times 3, we'll get to the negatives in a bit. 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 1 is 1. 6 over 1 plus 4 times 1, now we'll do this chunk. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. So really we're looking at 6 over 1 plus 4 over 1. Can I just add straight across? Yes, I can, because I have the same exact denominator. So I get 10 over 1, which is really just 10. Now go back, look at your problem. How many negatives did you have in the entire thing? You only had 1, so your answer should be negative 10. All right? Let's quickly look at number 7. 4.2 times negative 1/3 divided by 1/6 times negative 10. Whole bunch of stuff going on there. Let's change everything to fractions first. Then let's change everything to multiplication since we have a division sign. Also notice that we have 2 negatives, so my answer here is going to be positive. So I can basically forget about the negatives. So 4.2, that's really 4.2 is 2 over 10, also known as 1/5. Again, how did I get that? 2 over 10. Because that's what 0.2 is, but if I divide them by 2, divided by 2, hopefully from ST Math you remember, hey, these are equivalent, that's 1/5. So 4 and 1/5 times, I'm going to put a dot instead of that time symbol, negative 1/3 divided by, so let's change that. Let's change that to multiplied by, flip this, 6 over 1 times 10. And how do I put that as a fraction? 10 over 1. Okay, so notice I changed the division to multiplication by flipping or taking the reciprocal of 1 over 6. I put the negative 10 as 10 over 1. I don't care about the negative signs because I know I only have 2 of them, so they'll cancel out. Before I can work this, I got to go ahead and change this 4 and 1/5 into a improper fraction. So I'll say times plus 20. So now I'll have a problem of 21 over 5 times 1 over 3 times, shouldn't even have that negative sign there, times 6 over 1 times 10 over 1. So let's look to cross cancel. I could do the 3 and the 6. I could also do the 3 and the 21. I like doing the 3 and the 21 because 21 is a big number and I want to get rid of it. So let's do 3, divide that by 3, I get 1, divide this by 3, I get 7. And then 6 over 1, 10 over 1, we'll just leave as is, right? So you get 7 over 5 times 1 over 1 times 6 over 1 times 10 over 1. So we're going to multiply straight across. We'll say 7 times 1 is 7, times 6 is 42, and 42 times 10 is 420, right? And then 5 times 1 times 1 times 1 is just going to be 5. So we can say 420 over 5, or we can say, all right, what's 420 divided by 5? 5 goes into 420 8 times, with 20 left over, and goes in there 4 times. So 84 is my answer. 84. That's a tricky one. That's it for part 1 of the notes.